Dalia Spingarn, Senior Director, Production Technology Integrations at Paramount Global.
Hello. So I manage taking innovative software and technology. No? Okay. Better? All right. Finding practical applications for innovative technology for production specifically.
Okay, we have Rob Hedrick, Senior Director of Production and Technical Operations Manager for NHRA.
My job title is Senior Director of Production, so I'm in charge of making sure that anything that plugs into a socket for the NHRA gets on TV, and then all the cloud operations for our editing and post-production and our live environment work.
And we have Joanne Kim, Technology and Feature Film Technologist for Dumpster Dive Studio. Joanne?
Yes, I was formerly leading up the production technology team at Amazon Studios and have since left and started a production company or two, and really focusing on 360 immersive content and capture and building out rigs for virtual walls and immersive experiences.
And we have Kevin Kurgunian, Head of Studio Technology at Spotify Studio. Kevin.
Yes, I'm Kevin Kurigian. I work at the Spotify Studios, lead of technical operations. Specifically, I work at the Spotify Studios in LA. We have about 20 recording studios there, a mix of podcast studios and music studios and some production spaces. So pretty much anything that's technical, audio, video, lighting, I'm involved in.
So the first question is, I'm going to throw this out. Let's keep it a general discussion, but let's talk about browser-based creative tools. How do you see them fitting into workflows today and where they're heading tomorrow?
Why are you guys looking at me? This was the harder question that I was hoping someone else would answer first.
I can start, because they're going to come from a slightly different angle than I am. And that is one of the benefits that I see is that it's easier access, easier kind of lighter touch, activity, just because we don't necessarily need the entire suite of creative tooling all the time. So if somebody needs something that's more limited, that is narrower in scope, it's just an easier way to give them access to that and still have the same kind of controls over it and access wherever they are.
Yeah, and I think we discussed this a little bit prior, that there are platforms like, I think it's called Blackbird. I don't know. Prior to it being Blackbird, I think it was called something else, but they built a cloud-based editorial application, which I think is great. It kind of leans towards the whole remote cloud editorial solution that kind of makes sense for certain factions of the business. I don't know if it makes sense for everyone, but it definitely is a strong tool set that gives access, globalization, remote access, a suite of flexibility for editorial, and it's become better and better and better over the years. I think you're going to see more of that, and I think it fits into certain factions like broadcast probably has a great deal of use for something like that. And I'm pointing at you because Hot Rod is fucking amazing. Sorry. It's just an R-rated panel.
Yeah, so, an example this morning, while I was waiting for everybody to arrive, I went to my hotel room, through a cloud-based management asset management system, downloaded a show, QC'd it, re-uploaded it, and sent it to Fox for captioning in like 15 minutes because it's all cloud-based and browser-based. So our workflow wouldn't exist without browser-based tools.
Yeah, I was gonna add to that exactly. For us, it's mostly on like production workflows and stuff like that for our creators that come in and record, for instance. It's great to have that browser-based functionality just because of speed and efficiency. And I think it's also can be accessed from anywhere. You could be on someone's computer, on a studio computer, and at least you're not mounting a drive or anything, and you're just using a browser, which is pretty much available to you like on any machine, and you can access your files a little quicker.
But I just want to add, it's not ideal for I don't think this long form TV series, things like that. I don't know if it's ideal for that situation so much as like short form when you're doing interstitials, or like I need a quick fix on, an ad insert for Fox or something like that, or Spotify. What a great solution. It's so fast and easy to access, and the assets are there. But long form, I don't know. I don't think so.
How is it also fitting in with the rest as far as security and the rest of the workflows? And maybe Dalia, you could address that one. Is there work that needs to be done in that area?
I think there's always work that needs to be done on the security of the assets, making sure that you've got methods for establishing content provenance so that you're not worried about how something's getting out in the world. I think it's always going to be a concern, but for us, a lot of it is based on like virtual machines and virtual access to things where you can open up browsers within that, and it's in a more secure environment. You have a little bit more control, and so it still works. But I agree that for like a prestige film, it's not necessarily ideal, and it's not what you would want to use.
But it sounds like for most productions, it is.
Yes. I mean, I think for a lot of productions, when you're not doing like a $200 million film with like 3 billion assets, yes, I think, and you have like 50 odd editors who need access to everything at the yeah, if you're doing a small form broadcast thing and it's fast, it's something that you can turn over really quickly, I think it's ideal.
It's very useful too. Like we use our asset system very often for sales to go in and be able to edit quick proof of performance reels. So they're able to go in, grab assets from the broadcast, and in real time edit those at a simple storyline, deliver it out, and then send it back out to a client, all completely cloud-based. So they're not having to download, re-edit the asset, re-export it, send it back up. It's all in the browser, and it keeps it easy for sales.
And then there's this. We all use our mobile devices. Where does everybody see mobile heading in this space?
I mean, it's embarrassing to say this, but sometimes you don't always have a camera crew available. So we had to shoot a feature in Phoenix for a new sponsor that came on board, and I had a rig for my phone, put a wireless mic on, and shot it with my phone, and it aired on Fox that afternoon. And nobody knew.
That's broadcast. Yay!
People watched. We also, kind of like similar to that point, we also have a ton of like, clients or creators that aren't, necessarily tech savvy or don't have all the tools that we would normally have in a recording studio. So the smartphones, the tablets and things like that, whenever you do have a case where you want to actually like, we don't get talent for that long, right? Maybe it's just even 10 minutes and we can't set up, a whole production, equipment like we would. So I think smartphones, tablets, like with now like rigs that you can actually adapt to, iOS devices, Androids, you can actually get, decent sound quality and video capture quality. I think that there's still a lot of work to be done. And I think, battery life is always a thing and having power wherever you are. But I think, just the fact that it's you can take it anywhere. And nowadays with like technology of like just internet being almost available anywhere, I think, that technology is definitely going to go forward.
We see a lot of benefits in places where you can't get a full kit. So for news organizations that are out shooting in the field in a place that has maybe going through a war, you may not be able to bring in all of that equipment. So being able to have someone use a phone and shoot something that you can use for news coverage is pretty valuable.
Yeah, look, I think we all know that the phones and the cameras on the phones are getting really good. They're really high quality. There's features who have used camera phones and whatever. But I think more so, with the advent of things like Apple Vision Pro coming out, that Apple especially is going to make their phones, their ubiquitous camera content capture device, right? For that particular purpose. And I think that that's what they're going to drive the technology for. And especially if you're going to do, live immersive, events and experiences, I think more and more you're going to see these phones, and I think they already have them, insert in things like IMU data, for GPS locations, obviously, for telemetry, for, speed, for, elevation information, for the purposes of being able to stitch that material really quickly. I think that that's kind of the stuff that we need to remember, is that the advancement of some of the technologies that are happening in these phones, especially in Apple, are going to promote the access for building content for yourselves for the Apple Vision Pro or something like it. I think you're going to see more and more of that. The shooting of films, we've been doing that. There's feature films I could point to that you're going to be like, what? They shot on fucking iPhone? That's what I mean. That's been done. But I think the immersive content shit is going to be exploding.
When do you get your iPhone?
One more thing I'd love to add to that is, so a lot of the content creators are using apps, right? Like Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon, and things that are already work really well with our smartphones. So one thing that I see a lot is like, sure, it's great to edit on a computer and it's great to edit on a laptop. And if you're in the right room and the lighting is great, but sometimes some of these apps better integrate with your phone. So if you're able to basically make your phone a little bit more powerful just for capturing, even though you might not get the quality you want, but at least it's good enough. It integrates very quickly to YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, like I mentioned. So I think that's where, for speed again, and just being able to integrate well.
And ultimately, that's why we see like LiveU and TVU for news have apps for the phones now, so you can instantly go live from the phone.
And they've gotten a lot better. The capabilities of being able to have these secondary controls have improved significantly, and I think that's going to continue, and they're going to keep getting better. And
even cameras now. I mean, I've been seeing a ton of cameras that can directly stream live to these platforms. So I guess we're getting away from the smartphone there, but I think it's all kind of hand in hand. Whoever best integrates with these platforms and still keeps, formats, codecs, and doesn't compress things too much, then we'll be okay with it.
And it wouldn't be NAB 2024 if we didn't bring up AI. What is everybody's thoughts on AI?
I can start. I don't tend to think that everything is just around AI alone. Ultimately, it's about the right tool for the right use case, and it may or may not be AI. And ultimately, how important it is to have that AI moniker and tag on it will vary, but it's really about being able to do what you need to do in the most efficient way possible, and having AI applications that can enhance your ability to do that are fantastic. But I don't think that we're necessarily thinking about things like, okay, you enter a prompt and you have a TV show. And I think that's where a lot of the intention is lying, but there's so many practical applications that are secure and significantly more safe and keep the impact both ethical and legal in mind. And that's really the direction that we're looking at.
We use an AI to, we stream 12 to 15 hours a day of cars going down the track. And we have an AI that actually listens to the announcer, transcribes that in real time. So it's easy for our editorial team to go in, find quotes, find things the announcer said about certain teams, and go get that text in real time as it's transcribed off the string.
Yeah, AI has been used and is being used efficiently and well. Is it going to be more disruptive? Yes. Is it going to disrupt people's jobs? Absolutely. I think that that's just the facts that we're just gonna throw that out there. It's the facts, man. But I think what we're forgetting is that we're talking about a lot of great pie in the sky ideas, which is great. We have all these great notions of what AI could do. I think there's a lack of talking about what the processes and what the foundations need to be in order to achieve those great pie in the sky projects. There's a lack of focus on, I think, Dalia, you know this, is that there's a lack of focus on laying down the proper data set and the learning training models that are specific to what we require. that I don't hear much about. And I think that that's what's lacking. And I think that that's what's preventing us from actually achieving all these great things. And it's not going to take over people's jobs. I think if anything, it requires people to understand, and enhance their jobs probably even better, change it a little bit. I don't know. It might take over some jobs. I'm just kidding. It'll probably take over some. Sorry. But we'll be forced to find different methods of creating content. I think that that's why I went the production route, is I think we're going to be forced to look at, how we're going to engage audiences better. And I think that's where maybe AI comes into play. What engages people? How do you retain audience engagement and interest in a series that's deployed every week? I know that I dropped a lot of big series in like 2 episodes. And I think if we can incentivize using AI, incentivize some audience members to engage themselves into and become the fans that we really are. I don't think we see fans anymore. We don't have a big fan base for Rings of Power. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't see a big fan base coming together and getting together and saying, look, let's get together. Oh, and there's this game. Let's play this game that, gamifies the show. We have to watch it in order for us to play this game to win however many, cryptocurrencies that I'm going and spiraling out of control here, but you get the idea.
I think there's a growing understanding of the impact of the data foundation, and I love that that's becoming more of a focus and that that's becoming more important, because it's always been a challenge. It's always been a problem. Now we're doubling down on it by adding these AI applications on top of it. And so I think that if you want to be able to use these tools and have increased efficiency and be able to really benefit from them, you have to understand your assets. You have to be able to understand your data. It needs to be contextualized. It needs to be understood. You need the people that do. It's not just about developing a cool thing. It's about really understanding what it's going to be used for, who's going to use it, what it's going to change. And the focus on that, I think, is really important and will be really valuable and impactful on how successful a lot of these initiatives are.
Yeah, I agree with all those points. I think on our side at Spotify, in terms of on a podcast and music creation world, I would say that it's still early. It's obviously going to go pretty far. But we kind of tend to use some AI tools to just, I guess, increase some of the efficiencies in things that are basic, right? That don't require much, I guess, like creativity. I think when things that are just like simple of like applying certain filters or edits that we kind of have templatized already, if we can use an AI tool to, for instance, like ingest a 56-minute podcast and get great quotes from it, or social media clips to be generated from it, it just helps the actual people like us can focus more maybe on being creative, and having some of the AI tools, help us do some of the more mundane stuff. But I also think, yes, it was really interesting what you guys mentioned. I think there's a learning curve, and I think it's also like, it's great, but we also have to teach people how to use the AI tools properly. And there's a lot out there now, and some also work better than others. So you also have a little bit of quality control to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say it's exactly about storytelling. So use the AI tools to give everyone the tools to do their job better. So they can go in and instead of having to search through 300 hours of footage, you say, I'm looking for every time John Force blew up his car. And now it returns those results and you can see all those assets. Then you go in and choose, this tells the story the best.
I mean, what can we say about AI that you don't already know, right? I mean, we all know that it's going to do things faster and better and maybe, but I think rather than taking over people's jobs, what it's going to do is reduce the number of hours it takes for you to do an offline edit. That's great. Let's spend the time of doing less offline editing, make that be something that's automated. Now we have time to add to online editing, to the story, to the graphics, to how we want to cut to, a creative storyline that may make more sense. Time and time again, I don't know how many times I've worked on a feature where we're working and almost rewriting the script in post, right? Why can't we move all that time and effort up front, have it automated, clean it up, make that really quick and easy, all the grunt work, and then spend the time on the creative aspect? You're not losing time, actually. You're actually spending the same amount of time. You're just adding more time on the stuff that matters.
Do you see the size of editorial changing with that sort of process?
I see the roles of an assistant editor, changing in the sense that their grunt work, the tedious work of having to bring in their dailies, having to do their select, having to do their color, all that is going to be much shorter. And thank God, because then they can take the time to do the stuff that really matters to help their editors out and do the online story editing, the things that they need done by the editor can be more of a focus. It's not going to eliminate them.
It will help the learning curve speed up a lot though, which I think is also a good thing. It gives people easier access, and as the tools become more intuitive and there's more assistive technology, then you're able to start actually editing and spend less time focusing on figuring out the tool sets. And I think that that's a big benefit because it's a way to get creative people engaged earlier, and maybe they won't leave after they realize how hard certain things can be or tied to a specific software.
Yeah, it's about story. And if you ask any editor, they're focused on story. They want to do story. So if they don't have to do all the selects, the conforms, everything, they're more excited because now they get to actually tell a great story and not have to do the grunt work.
Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left. So I'm going to run into the last. Oh, did you run into? We've got about 5 minutes left. So why don't we start with Rob? Would each of you just look into your crystal ball, tell us what you see coming, and or if there's any technologies that are not available today that you think, if they were developed would be helpful to further your process?
I think the evolution of codec development, because everybody's shooting more and more and more content. Last night we pushed 6 terabytes from our show that we did this weekend at the Speedway. I think the more that we can get these tools and the editors and the creatives the access to more options, the better. So I think movement of data and, again, tools that help you sort the data faster to get to the story process.
Kind of connected to that, the infrastructure build out. So we don't talk about power or infrastructure, network infrastructure, because it's boring as shit. But it is probably one of the most important pieces in order for us to actually achieve anything that we're talking about. There is a shortage of power. There is limited power. There's really limited resources for us to be able to build the network out, to be able to move the files around that we need. But future facing, that all is also the foundation for us to be able to develop. Again, I don't know why I keep bringing this up. I really like the Apple Vision Pro. I think it's amazing. Even though I don't have an iPhone. I think the Apple Vision Pro is the iPod to the iPhone. I think that format, as people get more and more access to it, as the cost goes down, that format is going to be what engages people. I think it's a new thing that will be enough for people to engage. And that particular technology, I believe, requires a focus on things like IMU data this is all speculation, IMU data that would apply to the multi-cameras that you have so that you can stitch your material faster, much faster, because they're going to want live feeds of concerts, of, art gallery showings. I don't know what other live shit you guys like, but, hot rod stuff. Oh, it's amazing. If you guys ever get a chance. But yeah, I think that kind of technology has to be the focus. Things like time code needs to be eliminated. I know that I said that really loudly and people are probably going to attack me, but time code needs to be eliminated. You need a better way of doing that and being able to sync up material. You don't need it. You don't need it. I know you need it now, but you don't need it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It really is the infrastructure. The infrastructure is going to be able to build towards interoperability, being able to pick the right tool for the right use. And I think that is necessary because it allows companies to focus on what they're good at their core value proposition, instead of having to be everything to everyone, because there's no way, especially with like a massive enterprise like I'm at, that we can commit to one specific environment, one specific tool, one specific cloud. It's just not possible. Our breadth is too wide. And so being able to pick and choose is just necessary, but it does require a very solid data foundation.
Yeah, I love those points on infrastructure. To me, it'd be really two things. One would be just from a perspective of a lot of people doing content from their homes or in a remote location. I think internet speeds in general and just file transfers and delivery when you're not like, say, if you're at Spotify, we're lucky enough we have, you know, awesome internet speeds, right? So sending files and using things like Lucid Link works great. But when we're building a studio for someone at their home, they're kind of down to whatever that infrastructure or that residential, you know, whatever internet service provider can provide. So I think if I had a crystal ball, I'd say let's press the gas on that. The second thing is wireless video and audio transmission, but still keeping quality. So being able to be, you know, connected to someone in London and have zero latency and still have great quality and not, you know, have to compress some of the data.
Well, I'm afraid we're out of time. We're getting the wrap signal. So thank you to Lucid Link for putting this panel together, inviting us to participate. And please join me in thanking our speakers.